Hey guys, and welcome to another deep dive completion review. And what's a completion review, you may ask? Well, it's where I need to complete an Evercade game from start to finish. Doesn't matter how many load states I use, and it doesn't matter how many save states, just as long as I can complete the game before I do this review. And what little gem of a game are we doing today? Well, today we are doing Crude Busters from Data East Arcade number 2 collection, cart number 12. Let's get into it. So, the world's gone absolutely bonkers. New York's a post-nuke mess. Mutants are running wild, and the government's solution? Hire two shirtless, muscle-bound maniacs with the subtlety of a wrecking ball and the fashion sense of a protein shake. Welcome to Crude Buster, also known as Two Crude Dudes. An outrageously over-the-top arcade beat-em-up by Data East that's now throwing haymakers on the Evercade. Released in arcades at the height of the early 90s, a bigger is better era, and this game is pure chaos. You're pile-driving mutants, drop-kicking tanks, and casually ripping street signs out of the ground to use as weapons, all while flexing harder than a bodybuilder at a monster truck rally. But does this glorious punch-soaked fever dream still hit hard in 2025, or has time turned our crude dudes into crusty dads? Stick around as we dive into the mayhem, and we will see if this radioactive relic still deserves a spot in your retro lineup. Let's get crude. As always, we'll be looking at the story, the sound, and the gameplay, and a little later on we'll be looking at my Evercade stats on how long it took me to complete Crude Buster. But before we do that, let's look at some interesting facts by Data East and by the guys that made Crude Buster. Let's do it. So like I said, it's 1991 and arcades are roaring, mullets are flowing, and Data East is out here dropping an absolute bombshell called Crude Buster. Or, as it was lovingly renamed for Western audiences, Two Crude Dudes. And honestly, the name tells you everything you need to know. This game isn't subtle. It's a radioactive love letter to everything over the top about the early 90s action, where muscles matter more than logic and the only strategy is to lift it and launch it. Set in a blown-apart version of New York known as Crude City, the story is simple. Mutants have taken over, the government's useless, and the only two people left to clean it up are a pair of roided-up mercenaries with no shirts, no filter, and absolutely no chill. It's like Mad Max and the Toxic Avenger had a protein-fueled baby who grew up watching wrestling VHS tapes on repeat. Now, what makes Crude Buster really stand out isn't just the mutant slaying or the post-apocalyptic setting, it's the glorious, unapologetic chaos of the throwing mechanic. This isn't just a beat-em-up where you punch and move on. No, in this game, you throw everything. Enemies, pick 'em up and yeet them across the screen.
Yeet, yeet, skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt, 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 roll up, yeet, drop that, yeet, skirt that, yeet, pop that, yeet, hey.
City signs, great for crowd control. Wrecked cars, yeah, just bench one and lob it at a gang of cyborgs like you're late for an arm day. And if you're playing co-op, oh, you can absolutely throw your mate too, because in Crude Buster, every friendship is a weapon. What really made this game pop in the arcades, though, was its sheer spectacle. In a room full of cabinets all screaming for attention, Crude Buster was the one where a kid would stop mid-walk, point and go, "Did that guy just throw a car?" It didn't need flashy cinematics or complex moves, it just needed that one moment where physics got thrown out the window and replaced with pure cartoon violence. Even today on the Evercade, the core energy holds up. The colors are loud and the hits are chunky and every throw is still hilarious. You're not just fighting enemies, you're juggling them, weaponizing your mate, and sometimes just testing what the game will let you pick up next. It's slapstick in combat boots, a mutant-filled episode of Wipeout with a bigger budget and more protein powder. So yes, we go on about the throwing mechanic, but that's because in Crude Buster, throwing things isn't just a feature. It's the soul of the game. It's what turns a decent arcade brawler into a cult classic of chaos. If you're not flinging your co-op partner into a pile of mutants at least once per level, then you're not playing it right. And if you notice that in Crude Buster, the crude dudes were drawn like Western superheroes, that's because in the early 90s, Japanese developers weren't just making games for Japan, they were gunning hard for the Western arcade market, and they knew exactly what would grab attention. Muscles. And we're talking really big ones. Comically big ones. So when Crude Buster was getting developed, the team at Data East didn't just whip up two random beat-em-up protagonists, they designed living, breathing action figures, tailor-made for the American dream of the time. Biceps, bullets, and bravado. These weren't just characters, they were walking parodies of the West's obsession with hyper-masculinity. So what's a better way to grab attention than to create two characters who look like they bench press tanks for breakfast and don't own shirts out of sheer principle? This wasn't just a design choice, it was an intentional marketing move. Data East knew that in the loud, chaotic world of arcades, first impressions mattered. You had about 3 seconds to grab a kid's attention before they walked over to Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat. So the crude dudes weren't subtle. They were loud, ridiculous, and impossible to ignore. You see that cabinet across the room? The one with the two guys lifting cars and drop-kicking mutant punks? That's the one you'll put your coin into. And what's beautiful about all this is that Crude Buster doesn't even pretend to be serious. It leans into this parody. It's a send-up of every other over-the-top American action movie from the VHS era. You're not just playing as the tough guys, you're playing as the exaggerated, muscle-popping versions of what Japanese devs thought American kids thought tough guys looked like. And they were spot on. That's why when you boot it up in 2025 on your Evercade, it still hits, because it's not just a game, it's a cartoonish time capsule, a playable poster of a time when more muscles meant more power, and the only plot you needed was bad guys did a thing, go smash them. Let's take a look at the story. Alright, let's talk about Crude Buster, a game that's basically the love child of every crazy 80s action flick and mutant movie you can imagine, then pumped full of steroids and dropped into a nuclear wasteland called Crude City. The story? Well, it's simple because, frankly, it doesn't need to be complicated. Mutants have taken over the city and the government, they're done with subtlety and diplomacy. Their big idea? Send in two shirtless, muscle-bound maniacs who look like they haven't seen a salad in decades to punch, slam, and throw everything that moves back into submission. You are these two dudes often referred to just as the Crude Dudes, and your mission is to clean up the city by any means possible. And when I say any means, I mean anything you can pick up, grab, or throw becomes a weapon. From barrels and street signs to vending machines, and yes, even the buddy in co-op mode. The point of the game is delightfully straightforward. Beat the bad guys and save the city, one mutant pile driver at a time. But here's what really sets Crude Buster apart from your run-of-the-mill side-scrolling beat-em-ups. It's loud, brash, and absolutely chaotic. The gameplay isn't just about combos or finesse, it's about power and mayhem. You don't just punch an enemy, you pick them up, spin them around, and hurl them across the screen like yesterday's pizza box. The environments are interactive too, meaning you can use practically anything you find as a blunt instrument. This isn't subtle street justice. It's a wrecking ball justice. The point of the game is pure arcade adrenaline. Clear waves of mutants, wreck bosses that look like they belong in a bad sci-fi movie, and throw your co-op partner at anything that moves just for laughs. There's an unspoken challenge to see how ridiculous you can get before you actually finish the level. Can you clear the whole mob by flinging your car? Can you juggle your buddy into a flame trap? Can you pile drive a mutant into a dumpster while simultaneously dodging a missile? If you answered yes to any of these, then congratulations, you're playing Crude Buster right. The levels take you through all sorts of chaos, broken highways, toxic sewers, mutant-infested subways, and a city that looks like it just survived a rampaging metal band. Each stage cranks up the difficulty, but more importantly, it cranks up the spectacle. The bosses are cartoonishly brutal. Think flame-throwing cyborgs, mutant sumo wrestlers, and giant crab-like punks who hate being thrown into traffic. What makes it especially memorable and funny is how it doesn't just let you be powerful, it practically demands you to be reckless. The physics are loose, the animations are over-exaggerated, and the game practically encourages you to make a mess. This is arcade gaming in its purest form. Simple controls, instant fun, and the thrill of unpredictability. So why should you play Crude Buster today? Well, because the story is a ride of muscle-powered chaos that reminds us that sometimes gaming is best when it's loud, dumb, and gloriously over the top.
You son of a bitch! What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?
It's a perfect co-op romp where winning isn't just about beating the bosses, it's about how creatively you can throw things to get there. In short, if you want to beat 'em up that's less about combos and more about how many mutants can I throw off this bridge before the timer runs out, then Crude Buster is your kind of game. Let's take a look at the sound. Alright, let's talk about the sound of Crude Buster, because when you're smashing mutants and hurling cars like it's your part-time job, the audio isn't just the background noise, it's the life of the party. The Data East sound team clearly had a blast making this game noisy, messy, and absolutely unforgettable. First off, the sound effects are gloriously chunky and exaggerated. Every punch sounds like you just dropped the watermelon from the Empire State's building, only this watermelon fights back. The slams, crashes, and grunts are so satisfying you might find yourself doing the classic, "Did you hear that?" head turn after every big hit. And when you throw an enemy, that thwack makes you feel like you're a mutant landing ninja. Honestly, the sound of the tossing your buddy across the screen could probably double as a comedy cue in a slapstick movie. Here comes Larry, the human projectile. And then there's that iconic car throw sound, a booming crash that's like a rock concert, and a demolition derby had a noisy baby. It's the perfect audio punchline to the visual chaos of hurling vehicles at bad guys. Honestly, every time a car flies across the screen, it's like the game is saying, yeah, you're that kind of hero. You half expect your character to turn around and flex for the crowd after each successful toss. Now the music is pure early 90s post-apocalyptic wrestling gym vibes. Imagine if the Ultimate Warrior had a synth rock band and they just scored your mutant beatdown adventure. The tunes are relentless, and we're talking gritty enough to remind you that you're definitely not in Kansas anymore, and the soundtrack keeps pumping like the mutant-filled version of a motivational workout tape, pushing you to smash harder, throw further, and yell louder, whatever you want to do. The music loops with such energy that you might find yourself unintentionally headbanging, even if you're just sitting on the couch with a controller in hand. And if you pause for a second, this game's sound effect quickly reminds you why you don't, because mutant grunts and car crashes, they don't wait for your snack break. What's really brilliant is how all these sounds come together. Every grunt, crash, all blend into a glorious chaos that makes you feel like you're in the front row of one of the wildest arcade shows in town. Enemies roar, cars smash, and you're just here laughing because, let's be honest, you just threw a guy across the screen and the sound effect never gets old. In short, Data East didn't just design a game, they encouraged an audio circus where every sound effect has personality and every tune dares you to keep on going. It's loud, it's proud, and it's the perfect noisy soundtrack for a game that's basically a love letter to all things wild, weird, and wonderfully crude. Let's look at the gameplay. Let's dive into the gameplay of Crude Buster, where the real star isn't just the punches or kicks, it's the glorious throwing mechanic that turns this beat 'em up into a full-on destruction derby of beat 'em ups with muscles. Now, in most beat 'em ups, you whack enemies, maybe grab a weapon or two and try not to die. But Crude Buster, nah, it flips the script. Here, everything, and I mean everything, is fair game to pick up, toss, and slam. Barrels, street signs, trash cans, vending machines, you name it, you can chuck it. And if you're playing co-op, your buddy's probably going to become an airborne projectile at some point, because what's teamwork if not turning your partner into a flying missile? This throwing mechanic isn't just fun, it's game changing. Imagine grabbing a mutant punk by the ankles, spinning him around like a ragdoll, and flinging him into a group of enemies, causing a domino effect of mutant mayhem. It's like being the world's angriest carnival ride operator, but instead of kids, you're just spinning and launching mutants. And trust me, the mutants scream just as much. What makes it even better is how Crude Buster's levels love to let you smash stuff up. The environments aren't just pretty backdrops, they're your personal playground. Break down street signs to clear space, rip vending machines off their hooks and throw them like giant grenades. Or grab those lovely wrecked cars and send them flying like a mad scientist conducting a physics experiment. The destructible environment adds a layer of chaos that keeps things unpredictable. Sometimes you throw something and it crashes through the scenery, taking out enemies and part of the background in one glorious explosion of pixels. It's like the game saying, yeah, go nuts, wreck the place, we'll clean it up later. And because the physics aren't exactly realistic, they're actually gloriously loose and ridiculous, every throw feels like a surprise party. Will it land on the boss? Will it bounce off the wall and take out 3 enemies? Or will it hilariously fly off screen and leave you wondering what just happened? That unpredictably keeps the gameplay fresh and the laughs coming. Plus, the throw mechanic rewards creativity and timing. Perfect your aim and you can clear waves of mutants with a single well-placed toss. Miss, and well, you might accidentally send your buddy flying into a mutant, creating a slapstick scene worthy of a cartoon. So yeah, throwing things isn't just a gimmick in this game, it's the heart and soul of Crude Buster's gameplay. It's what turns a standard beat 'em up into a chaotic carnival of smashing, crashing, and flying mutants, and honestly, if you're not having fun turning your co-op partner into a makeshift boomerang at least once, you're missing out on the best part. Now, I paid $56.18 for the Data East Arcade number 2 collection, but we're only reviewing Crude Busters, and this has 12 games on it, so we can't say I paid that much. For the purpose of this review, we need to say that I spent $4.68, meaning for me to get my $10 per hour ratio, I'll need to play and complete this game in longer than 28 minutes. And I can successfully say I achieved this completing Crude Busters in 54 minutes, meaning it's a bargain in my eyes. I had a play count of 1, a load count of 0, and a save count of 1, meaning I completed this game in my first playthrough. And now it's time for my review on Crude Buster. Let's smash this up. So I'm giving Crude Buster's story a 4 out of 10. Mainly because I'm a massive fan of post-apocalyptic games. There's just something irresistible about the whole world's gone to hell and everything's broken and now you're the guy tasked with cleaning up the mess vibe. It taps into this primal urge to smash chaos back into order, or at least smash things for the heck of it. So when I found out that Crude Busters takes place in a blasted out mutant-infested version of New York called Crude City, I was all in. And I mean, finally, a game where you just don't tiptoe through a ruined world, you storm through it, smashing mutants, wrecking everything in sight, and acting as the last hope for humanity. Or at least, the last shirtless hope. Because hey, saving the world without a shirt is just how you do it in Crude City. But here's the kicker, the story itself, it's as bare bones as the protagonist's wardrobes. Seriously, the narrative boils down to one thing. Mutants took over the city, you're the muscle, go smash stuff. No unexpected twists, no deep emotional backstory, no heart-wrenching character development, just pure, unfiltered mutant smashing chaos. And honestly, there is some charm to that, but the game isn't aiming to be The Last of Us or Fallout. It's just loud, goofy, and unapologetically over the top. It's a mutant smashing romp where the story takes a backseat to smashing. And look, that's perfectly fine. So once you actually get into the game, there really isn't much more to it. No hidden lore, no dramatic cutscenes unfolding, or a complex plot. Just relentless waves of mutants, destructible environments, and your fists doing the talking. The story doesn't even evolve or surprise you. It's a simple backdrop for all the smashing, throwing, and chaos you're about to unleash. That said, I really appreciated the setting. Look, Crude Buster nails the vibe of the city, utterly trashed and turned into a playground for destruction. Crude City isn't just a backdrop, it's a character itself, full of broken highways, toxic sewers, and mutant-infested ruins. The idea of being the guy tasked with cleaning up this mess is inherently satisfying. It's the kind of story that doesn't make you think too hard, but gets you pumped to pick up the controller and throw anything that isn't nailed down. Sometimes, literally, you throw anything. And I think that's why this didn't land with such punch that I wanted it to, because let's face it, Crude Buster isn't going to win any literacy awards, and if you're craving anything with a deep, thoughtful narrative, you need to look elsewhere. But if you just love the post-apocalyptic worlds where muscle power and mayhem reigns supreme and more of a ridiculous outburst, then yeah, I give it a 4 out of 10. It's the perfect excuse to dive into a chaotic, throw everything in the kitchen sink kind of brawler and just have fun wreaking havoc in a world that's as wild and unruly as the game itself. Let's take a look at the sound. So for the sound of Crude Busters, I'm giving the audio a solid 6 out of 10. And honestly, it was probably one of the best parts of the game. The sound effects, oh, they're gloriously chunky. Every punch, slam, and crash sounds like you just dropped a mutant off a skyscraper. And trust me, it feels just as satisfying as it sounds. It's the kind of audio feedback that makes you want to lean in and say, yep, that's a proper wallop. But the real MVP, the music. It's got this cool, aggressive beat that punches you right in the eardrums. In a good way. It's not all synth and sci-fi bleeps. Instead, it just feels raw and it feels gritty, like the perfect soundtrack for a city that's been smashed to bits and taken over by angry mutants. Imagine some underground mutant rock band cranking out all the beats that says, "Get ready to rumble," or at least throw a vending machine at a mutant in the face. The music really amps up that intensity. It's like having a hype man in your headphones yelling, "Keep going, smash harder, throw that trash can." It perfectly matches the chaos on screen, pushing you to keep wreaking havoc without ever letting up. It's gritty, rough around the edges, and has that relentless energy that just won't quit. Kind of like your co-op partner who insists on throwing themselves at every enemy. The combo of punchy sound effects and that driving aggressive beat made the audio a real highlight. It creates this perfect storm where every hit feels satisfying and the music keeps your adrenaline flowing. It's not going to win any Grammy anytime soon, but honestly, it doesn't need to. The audio knows its role to make you feel like you're in the middle of a mutant demolition derby, and it nails that every single time. So yeah, Crude Buster's audio might not be revolutionary, but that's cool. Aggressive beat and that satisfying crashes make the whole experience way more immersive and a lot more fun. It's the kind of soundtrack that sticks in your little head, so don't be surprised if you find yourself humming mutant smashing tunes long after you put your controller down. Let's look at what I give the gameplay. When it comes to the gameplay of Crude Buster, I'm giving it a pretty disappointing 3 out of 10. Honestly, I found it quite boring and repetitive, which is a big letdown for a beat 'em up. The whole destructible environments thing seemed like the game's big selling point, and sure, it was cool at first. You get to smash up barrels, toss vending machines, and even hurl cars around. But here's the catch. Every couple of seconds, the game shoves something in your hands to throw. It's like the developers were thinking, this isn't a beat 'em up, let's make the first throw 'em up game where literally everything is throwable. I mean, if you wanted, you could probably pick up a street lamp, a mailbox, or that poor NPC who just wanted to mind their own business. But rather than adding excitement, the constant need to grab and toss objects quickly, for me, became a chore. It took away from the classic beat 'em up rhythm I was expecting and that I love, where you string combos, dodge attacks, and strategically take down enemies. Instead, I felt more like a demolition crew worker on a mission to trash everything in sight. It was way less beat 'em up and more environmental destruction simulator, and that got old. It got old pretty fast. And it wasn't just the throwing mechanic that felt repetitive. The enemy types didn't offer much variety, and the levels, while destructible, started to blend into one another. Toxic sewers, ruined highways, mutant-infested streets. I get it. They all sort of looked the same after a while. There wasn't really anything memorable about the fights, the bosses, or the stages. No standout moments that made me want to keep playing beyond the initial novelty. Crude Busters just didn't stick with me. It lacked the spark or unique gameplay hook that would make it a classic in the crowded beat-em-up genre. Instead, it felt like a loud, chaotic mess where the main goal was to throw everything within arm's reach over and over and over and over again until you're bored out of your brain that you probably wanted to throw that too. If you're after a beat 'em up with tight controls, I would probably look at another game. Maybe their other game, Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, but Crude Buster, it's just not the game for me. It was like the video game equivalent of smashing stuff in your backyard, but without the fun of actually being outside. Overall, I rate Crude Buster a 4 out of 10, and honestly, that might be a little bit generous. I was genuinely hyped to play this game, and after all, it was billed as the spiritual successor to Bad Dudes, which set the bar pretty high. So I was ready to dive into the world's shirtless mutant smashing extravaganza, and instead what I got felt more like being dragged through a mutant infested swamp with concrete boots on. Maybe I set my expectations too high, like expecting a gourmet meal and ending up with a soggy fast food. But Crude Buster promised a thrilling brawler, but for me it was more like a beat 'em up with a bad sense of deja vu. Except instead of exciting combos and flashy moves, I got stuck playing grab everything and throw it endlessly. It's the game that said, hey, what if I made every single object throwable? And then just made me do that forever. Honestly, you could rate this as the first throw-em-up game where the real boss battle is against your own frustration at constantly tossing barrels and cards instead of fighting actual mutants. The story, for me, barely there. It's basically mutants took over, go punch stuff, not exactly Shakespeare, but hey, I wasn't expecting a Pulitzer Prize winning script in a game about two guys throwing vending machines at mutants. And the sound, probably the standout of the game. There were some really cool moments, especially that aggressive beat that kept my blood pumping, but it couldn't save the gameplay from feeling like a repetitive chore. And that gameplay itself, that's where the wheels really fell off the cart. Instead of adrenaline-fueled brawl, it felt like a demolition derby with fists. The destructible environments got old fast, but after the 10th barrel and 15th flying street sign, you realize the game's idea of variety is just a new thing to throw. It's like the game handed me a shopping list of breakables and said, go nuts. So yeah, Crude Buster ended up feeling more like a workout for my throwing arm than an exciting beat 'em up. For those who love chaos and destruction, then maybe this will hit the mark, but for me, it was an anchor that made finishing the game feel like a chore. If you want a real mutant bashing good time, you might want to look elsewhere, but if you're up for some mindless smashing, throwing, and maybe a few laughs at how bonkers it all is, then Crude Buster might be your jam. I never experienced this co-op because no one else really wanted to play with me, and maybe that's the reason why I rated this game so low. Thank you so much for watching another deep dive Evercade completion review. Please remember to give me a like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you really enjoyed this video, hit that share button and push us out into the universe so others can find the Odd Socks channel and experience either great or not so great reviews from what I do. Until next time, everyone, stay awesome, stay odd, and we'll see you next time on the Odd Socks. See you guys.
Woo!